questions about this topic, or
I got a scripture that I would like Black Hebrew Israelites to answer in Leviticus, and I think you know the one I'm talking about.
Go ahead.
I'm going to bring it up on screen. Hold on. It's Leviticus 19:34. So I'm going to bring that up on screen, guys. Give me 1 second. It pretty much refutes the entire doctrine of Black Hebrew Israelism in 2 ways. They never seem to bring this one up. What did I say? Leviticus 19:34. I really like the New King James Version for some reason.
You ever wondered what actor...
One of my faves now. That was Pastor Craig. He turned me on to that one. Okay. So, let's just start at... We'll go to Leviticus 19. Maybe start at 30, read a little context. Something Black Hebrew Israelites never do is read stuff in context. So... let's see here. Let me get this up on the screen. Share screen. Leviticus 19. It's good too because the BHI, the Black Hebrew Israelites, always use the Old Testament. They love the Old Testament. They really seem to love the Old Testament, right? So, you shall keep my Sabbaths and reverence my sanctuary. I am the Lord. Give no regard to mediums and familiar spirits. Do not seek after them to be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God. You shall rise before the gray-headed and honor the presence of an old man and fear your God. And here's the meat and bones. Here's the meat and potatoes first. And if a stranger, so a stranger, someone who is not of them, if a stranger dwells with you in your land, you shall not mistreat him. The stranger who dwells among you shall be to you as one born among you, and you shall love him as you love yourself. So that's the first part that destroys Hebrew Israelism. And now here's the second part. For you were strangers in the land of where? Egypt. I am the Lord your God. I have yet to have a Hebrew Israelite answer this.
All right, Shalom. This is the Hara One, Banyasha Allah of the Lions Den Camp. When they say Kal Halayim, La Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Harakah Kodash, Ma'amah. Double honor to the elder apostles of GMS and the elders. Shalom to you, Akim, and Akwatim and children that believe in sincerity and truth around the 4 corners of the earth. Yeah, man, I just wanted to do a quick response to these damn Edomites over there at Signs of the Times. I guess they just started their page, right? I've been seeing them pop up with different posts, and it kind of seemed like I'm watching a rendition of Vocab Malone. I know they call themselves Christians, but you can tell they're making money off of it. As soon as you go to their page, on the videos, when they talk about Hebrew Israelites or Black Hebrew Israelites, which is a political term, going back to Agenda 21, all right, in the 1960s and 70s. And that's not what we are. We're not black. We're Hebrew Israelites, but that's a whole nother topic. But the thing is, if you go to his page, as you're watching the video, a bunch of commercials will keep coming up. So this guy probably don't even care about the topics, man. He's just like, yo, he probably saw his Edomite, idol, Vocab, Vocab Malone, and the Christian apologetics. He probably saw them because you hear him say terminologies like Hebrew Israelism. We know where that came from. Everybody know where that came from. That's Vocab, man. He's the only one that say that mess. Hebrew Israelism. Like it's a system, So anyway, if you go on his page, you'll see that he all about money. He trying to get some money. All right. And I don't care what he say. But so they went into the scripture Leviticus 19 and spoke about the term stranger. And they always stumble over this. All right. And Jake follow right, a lot of ignorant Jakes follow right behind them. Because one, you can tell they new to this whole discussion because they'll say things like, yeah, one of them named Tazadakia. It's like, come on, bro. He's gone, first of all. Second of all, he was off. Everybody know he was going off on scriptures. And they'll say, uh, we don't believe that, they'll say, Israelites believe that everybody has to be dark skinned. And that's not true. So I'm not going to help them give them that information. But these are the things that their argument is in their debate. So the one, they're telling falsehoods, they're bearing false witness. All right. So their whole page is a lie. And they're just sitting there lying, basically. All right. How can you argue with somebody and you don't understand what you're arguing about? Verse 33. Let's get it. And if a stranger sojourn with thee in your land, ye shall not vex him, meaning oppress him. All right. But the stranger that dwelleth with you shall be unto you as one born among you, and thou shalt love him as thyself, for ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. All right. So now, what does that mean? What it means is this. Of course, Esau will be like, yeah, they're gonna try to say that strangers means Israelite. Yeah, of course we're gonna say that because that's the truth. How Esau talk, they'll try to make it seem like, and you know what they're gonna say. Nah, man. That's right. That's what we're gonna say, because that's what the scriptures say. All right. But that word stranger there is what? Gar. All right. H1616. When you go to it, it means what? Gar. All right. The term gar says a guest, a foreigner. And that's what you got to look for in the Greek, the word foreigner. All right. If you look for a foreigner in the Hebrew, in the Old Testament is different. Okay. So what is it? Gar means what? A foreigner. Basically saying an Israelite that lives outside of the land, sort of like Laban. All right. What was that? Haran. All right. Isaac and was that Rebecca he met? And they were all what? They were called Syrians, which would be Aramaeans. But they were Israelites as well, basically. Descended from Abraham. The Lord was saying, hey, they're our people as well. You're going to have people coming from everywhere. So it had to be laws in place how they can be returned into their people or live in the land and given an inheritance, because that land is ours. The Lord gave it to us. So each of us have an inheritance in that land. But what happens when you show up and you don't have parents? You don't know who your parents are. So they had to go through a cleansing process through the Levites. The Levites had to cleanse the people. They either had, in some circumstances, they had to be circumcised. All right, they had to be washed. All right, they had to be taught the doctrine. So on and so on, man. So it was a return process, but now we return through Yahushua. That's how we get our inheritance, through Yahushua. And that's the Old Testament, New Testament. Because in the Old Testament, this was a way for Gentiles, Israelite foreigners, to return from being amongst the nations, amongst the Goyim. All right. So, and Goyim just means what? Like nations or pagans, or it could just be nations. All right. Mostly the pagans were these heathen nations, man, and our people could be called nations as well, though. All right, just nations in general. But now let's get to the point. But to be a foreigner means an Israelite that was living outside of the lands and coming back to being an Israelite or returning to that land, and he has to have an inheritance or lacking inheritance, so they have to be given one or um, given a place amongst the people where they can work for somebody, they can live with somebody, they can be given a place amongst the people. All right, but they had to give up, cast away all their idol worship, and they had to go through a cleansing process. But that's why they were called Gar, which means what? A sojourner, a temporary inhabitant. It ain't talking about no Edomite. It's not talking about no heathens. They had no place and no part in it. A temporary inhabitant, a newcomer. What's that? A newcomer. Lacking inherited rights. A foreigner. A foreigners in Israel, though conceded rights, man. So they didn't have any rights in the land. So they had to be given rights. All right. And right here where it says, for ye were strangers in the land of Egypt, I am Yahweh your power. Basically saying what? Yahweh still dealt with us, even though we were strangers in the land of Egypt. So the first ones that he established and brought out of Egypt, he's saying, yo, it's going to be others that return as well. When they return or come to Israel, don't reject them because they're Israelites too. It's that simple. Now, the elect, or the ones that are called first in this truth, is a spiritual coming out of Egypt mentally. All right. And now the first ones that come out of this place mentally, spiritually, and return unto Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, he said, what? We're not to boast against the branches. The branches are the Israelites of the same tree, the same olive tree, man. They have gone wild and they have to be returned. They can be what? Grafted in. Just like in real life, you can graft an apple tree of any um, family of apple trees. Green apple, any apple tree, you can graft that into an apple tree and it'll work. But if you graft a pear tree branch into an apple tree, it won't work. All right, so it don't matter what tribe they're from of Israel, what color they are. It just matters if they're of that tree of Israel, that bloodline. Then they can be grafted in, back in. It's just that simple. Esau can't understand that because they don't want to. Not that they can't. They can't, but they also don't want to. They're playing a game. Their whole thing is to get up there and play devil's advocate. They're not playing devil's advocate. They're playing devil. That's just what they are. They're deceivers. So their job is to make all these podcasts, YouTubes, and they sit there and ask just questions. They have nothing concrete. Well, hey, let me go to this then. What is this? Haha. They try to go to this scripture, but they can't. I want to see a black Hebrew Israelite answer that. Yeah, black. That's like them saying nigga. They try to categorize everybody. Like they better. That's Esau. That's that racism. That racism, not Israelism. Racism. They forget about that ism. Schism. All right. So yeah, man. For we were strangers in the land of Egypt. It's that simple. So the Lord saying, hey, man, let me get this real quick. This is Romans 11:13. For I speak to you, Gentile. This is Paul speaking, and we know up here he says what? I say, verse 1. I say then, have Yahweh cast away his people? That's a question to Esau. Have the Lord, what does that mean? Did the Lord cast away his people? Because he said he'll never do it. He said he'll never give us up forever. He turned away from us and he's going to return back to us. That's it. or should I say, we turned away from him. He's returning us back to him. I say then, have Yahweh cast away his people? God forbid. For I also am an Israelite of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. Yahweh have not cast away his people, which he foreknew. Wot ye not what the scriptures say of Elijah, how he maketh intercession to Yahweh against Israel, saying, all right, so now, what does that mean? People like Paul, he was a Roman, all right, and called himself a Pharisee, called himself keeping the law. But you had a lot of us that were still scattered at that time, all right? So Paul was saying, even though he was cast away until the Lord opened his eyes, trespassing against the church spiritually. When even though he was cast away, the Lord has not done away with his people. He's going to lead one out, and that one's going to lead many, and that's it. Let's get down to the point. This goes with Leviticus 19. You would boast not against your brethren, because you were captive strangers in Egypt as well. That's what this means. Romans 11. Let's start from 13. For I speak to you Gentiles, and that Gentile means ethnos. Ethnos, it just means nations. All right, it's talking about the Israelite nations. As much as I am apostle of the nations, I magnify my office. If by any means I may provoke to emulation them which are my flesh. See, even though he's teaching to a sea of people, his whole aim is to provoke to emulation them which are his flesh. Romans 9, 3. For I could wish that myself were accursed from Yahweh Shai for my brethren, my kinsmen according to the flesh, who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption, being brought back to the Father, and the glory, which is the kingdom, the promises, or the kingdom, and the covenants, which is the first and second covenant. So how does Esau have a place in that? And the giving of the law. So, all right, so the law is going to be coming from us in the kingdom. It started with us, is going to begin with us again. And the service of Yahweh, being able to deal with the altar and praying to the Father and teaching in these times. And the promises of Jacob that was given to Jacob. It wasn't given to Isaac. It wasn't given to Ishmael, anybody. It was given to Jacob specifically. All right. Whose are the fathers, and of whom, as concerning the flesh, Yahweh Shai came, who is over all, Yahweh blessed forever. Amen. All right. So, verse 14, if by any means I may, Romans 11 and 14, if by any means I may provoke to emulation them which are my flesh, and might save some of them, right? Save some of Israel. That's what we aim to do today, to save the hopeful elect. All right, it says, even though Israel should be as the sand of the sea, only a remnant shall be saved. So how is Esau going to have a place in that? You read the book of Revelation, they talk about the 12 gates. And there's no other nations in that to enter into the kingdom. All right. Now he said what? Might save some of them. All right. 14 is very important. Okay, he said talking about the flesh, and then he says, and that's talking about Israel according to Romans 9. And he said what? And he might save some of them. Romans 10. Brethren, 10 and 1. Brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to Yahweh for Israel is that they might be saved. See, he want to save at least some of Israel, if not all. Now this goes with Leviticus 19, all right, 33 or 34. For if the casting away of them be the reconciling of the world, what shall the receiving of them be? But life from the dead, man. You know? So he cast all of us away so that he may what? Um begin to draw us back to him by the hopeful elect. You know, that's the beginning point. That's the first fruits. All right. Um, for if the casting of, so now we're blessed to have what? Life from the dead. So they're the only ones, the elect of Israel. Well, so like I meant to say Israel, the ones that were Ezekiel 37, the dry bones, man. Look at that. All right, this is Ezekiel 37:10. So I prophesied as he commanded me, Ezekiel, right? And the breath came into them, the breath meaning the spirit of truth, and they lived and stood upon their feet, a great exceeding army. That's why scripture say if they remember themselves, only the elect are going to remember themselves in these times until the kingdom, the elect of Israel. So, verse 11. Then he said unto me, Son of man, these bones, the valley of dry bones that he was speaking to and prophesying to, in Revelations 11, speak about them standing upon their feet and walking around dead, spiritually dead, until they given that light, that life from the dead spiritually. You know, instead of being Gentiles and strangers. Then said he unto me, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Behold, they say, our bones are dried and our hope is lost. We are cut off for our parts. That's what they're saying today. Just think they're black. They think they're African or American or nobody. Therefore prophesy and say unto them, Thus saith Yahweh, behold, O my people. That's his people, man. I will open your graves and cause you to come up out of your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. So how Esau want to be saved so bad, though he sought repentance with tears. That's what they're doing. Just like Herod and Antipater the Edomite want to be down. And ye shall know that I am Yahweh when I have opened your graves, right? Because he said, you shall no longer call me Ba'ali, but we shall call him Ishi, right? A husband. We know who our husbandman is now through the spirit of truth. Yahweh, and he gave us Yahweh Shai. Okay. O my people, and brought you up out of the graves. And ye shall know that I am Yahweh when I have opened your graves, O my people, and brought you up out of the graves. So he bring us up into the chariots. And shall put my spirit in you, and ye shall live, and I shall place you in your own land. Then shall ye know that I, Yahweh, have spoken it and performed it, saith Yahweh. Wow, man. So he told him what? That's what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to take a stick with what you would call a board, and we would go out and write upon there the northern and southern kingdoms. All right. And they're going to walk by and say, hey, that's me, or that's us on there. And according to the prophecies, you read them, and it matches our people. It doesn't match the prophecies don't match those fake Jews over there in our land today. That was established in 1948. Right? So now it says, 21, we get to the point. And say unto them, Thus saith Yahweh power, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen. That means from among the dead. All right. So that's my question to Esau. How do them demons over there, signs of the times, answer, um, break down Ezekiel 37:21? I bet you they won't do it. They won't do it. And say unto them, Thus saith Yahweh power, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whither they be gone, and will gather them on every side and bring them into their own land. And I will make them one nation, in the land upon the mountains of the Israel, and one king shall be to them all. Talking about King David, under Yahushua, and they shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms anymore at all. All right, and the division really happened um, around 931 BC with Jeroboam and Rehoboam. All right, the split. All right, so it says this. Wow. Neither shall they defile themselves anymore with their idols, right? Because we're not going to be, we're going to be strangers, but we're not going to be strange anymore. We're going to return back. All right. Nor with their detestable things, all these idols and holidays, nor with any of their transgressions, you know, but I will save them out of all their dwelling places, wherein they have sinned, and will cleanse them. So shall they be my people, and I will be their God. So how does Esau have a place in that? Because you think about it. Even the Japanese and the Chinese and the Arabs and Africans, they're not going to be delivered either. All right, Esau always try to make it about them, man. You see these people go out into the streets. What do they say? I don't believe in it because the BLM is basically Baal, Lucifer, Molech movement. Because if you think about all the people that are out there protesting, that's what they represent: Jesus, um, sodomy, and idol worship, other idol worship. Romans 9:27. But they go out there and say so-called Black Lives Matter, but then what did Esau say? All lives matter. It's like, yo, this is self-centered, man. It's all about them. Romans 9:27. Isaiah also crieth, says Isaiah, all right? Isaiah also crieth concerning Israel, though the number of the children of Israel be as the sand of the sea, a remnant shall be saved. All right, so only a remnant. So they ain't talking about Esau and these nations, man. The Lord only coming for a remnant of Israel. All right, and Isaiah said before, except the Lord of Sabaoth had left us a seed, we had been as Sodom and Gomorrah, and been like unto Gomorrah. What shall we say then? That the Gentiles, right, the nations of Israel, or the ones that were pagans, which followed not after righteousness, that's why they were Gentiles, because they were not following after the laws, but even they have attained to righteousness through Yahushua, even the righteousness which is of faith. All right. It says, but Israel, talking about the ones that were of the circumcision, that knew they were Jews, or called themselves Jews or Israelites. The other one would call themselves Romans, Greeks, or whatever else. But they were Israelites. It says, but Israel, which followed after the law of righteousness, the ones that called themselves the circumcision, have not attained to the law of righteousness, right? Through faith. They didn't have faith. A lot of them. They were still going off, even though they considered themselves to be a circumcision. 32. Wherefore, because they sought it not by faith, but as it were by the works of the law. See the difference? That's just it. If they're not keeping the laws, they were considered Gentiles, being Israelites. And the ones that were keeping the laws, they were still incorrect, because we make it back to get our inheritance in Israel through Yahushua now, not through the laws of Moses. All right. For they stumbled at the stumbling stone. The stumbling stone is Yahushua. As it is written, behold, I lay in Zion a stumbling block, a stumbling stone, a rock of offense, and whosoever believeth on him shall not be ashamed. It's talking about Israelites that know they're Israelites, And the Israelites that don't know the Israelites, they call themselves American or African or black or whatever, or Christian, you know what I'm saying? Muslim. They have to return unto the fact that they're Israelites, and they have to return to Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. That's how they return to Israel, is through Yahushua. Right? Romans 11:15. For if the casting away of them be the reconciling of the world, what shall the receiving of them be but life from the dead? See, that point should be made now. For if the first fruit be holy, the lump is also holy. And if the root be holy, so are the branches. All right, so that's how we obtain unto righteousness, through the root. Talking about Yahushua. All right, the root of Jesse, spoken of in Isaiah 11. If some of the branches be broken off, and thou being a wild olive tree, were grafted in among them, and with them partakers of the root and fatness of the olive tree, boast not against the branches, but if thou boast, thou bearest not the root, but the root thee. That's what he's saying, man, because we came out of Egypt as well. So what, you in the truth? You gotta remember that you were a Gentile as well. So what? You're in the land of Israel. Just remember, you just got brought out of Egypt too. So you got to treat the brothers correctly when they arrive. So what? You're in this truth. You got to treat your brothers correctly when they convert and repent, and treat them as newborn babes. All right, that's what it's saying. And Esau can't understand that. They think it's talking about, yeah, now you can take in Esau and these other heathens, and they'll be delivered. Verse 18: Boast not against the branches. Talking about the sojourners, the strangers. All right, the strangers, man, the gar. But if thou boast, thou bearest not the root, but the root thee. Talking about Yahushua, man. Rather ye are known of the Father. Thou would say then the branches were broken off, that I might be grafted in. Well, because of their unbelief, they were broken off, Esau. So because of Jacob's unbelief, they were broken off from being Israelites. And thou standest by faith, be not high-minded, but fear. For if Yahweh spared not the natural branches, take heed lest he also spare not thee. You know, because even though you're in this truth, the Lord can still turn you away. All right, even though we were in that land, if we started boasting against our people, the Lord can still cast us out of that land again. Behold, therefore, the goodness and severity of Yahweh on them which fell severity, but toward thee goodness. If thou continue in his goodness, that's like the good son and the bad son. Remember that? I think it's Luke 15, if I'm not mistaken. And they also, if they abide not still in unbelief, see, Romans 11:23. If if Israel abide not still in unbelief, shall be grafted in, for Yahweh is able to graft them in. He's not going to graft in an Edomite though. That's not righteous. For if thou were cut out of the olive tree, which is wild by nature, all right, and were grafted contrary to the nature in a good olive tree, see, still part of an olive tree family. How much more shall these, which be the natural branches, be grafted into their own olive tree? All right, so we were grafted in, or the ones that call themselves of the circumcision, were grafted into Yahweh Shai. You know, even though they thought they were correct, but they had to be grafted in as well, because they were still in sin. And so are the Gentiles, the Israelite Gentiles. So he has equated all of us under sin. And we make it back to Yahweh through Yahweh Shai and grafted in. For I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery, lest lest ye should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness in part is happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in, man, till the rest of the elect of Israel wake up to the truth. And so all Israel shall be saved. Now, it ain't say all the earth, all the nation. No, it said all Israel shall be saved. Why? Because the elect first, Israelite foreigners, Gentiles, the elect, and then the first fruits, and then the second fruit, in the kingdom. And so shall all Israel be saved, as it is written. There shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob. The promises, man. That's the promise right there. It's about Jacob. All right, he's going to turn ungodliness from us, as it says in Leviticus. For this is my covenant unto them, when I shall take away their sins. Wow, man. This is Ephesians 2 and 18. For through him we both have access by one Spirit unto the Father. Is that clear, man? Jews and Gentiles. Israelites that know they're Israelites, and also these American Israelites. Israelites that's in the world, man, basically. Calling themselves European, but they're of Negro, Latino, Native American stock. They may look like these nations, they may look like an Edomite, look like Chinese, but if their bloodline goes back to being an Israelite, they have a chance at salvation. They either sleep, meaning they have no awareness of it and they missed an opportunity, or, basically spiritually dead, or they're awake and they're standing upon their feet and they're part of the Lord's army, the first fruits. But they have to be Israelites. For through him we both have access by one Spirit, the Spirit of truth, unto the Father. He said what? He seeketh such to worship him in spirit and in truth. Now therefore ye are no more strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints, and of the household of Yahweh. See that through Yahweh we get our inheritance. Because that's what that word stranger means in Leviticus 19. It means gar, one lacking inherited rights. So how do we get our inheritance today to return? All right, because back then you had to go through certain cleansing process and the rights of inheritance. But now we come back through Yahweh Shai, but you have to be an Israelite. All right, let's get the word foreigners. See, strangers here is different than strangers in the Old Testament. Right, it says this. This would be more, check this out, it says stranger, a foreigner, a xenos, okay, xenos, um, a foreigner, a guest, an entertainer, a foreigner, a stranger, an alien from a person or a thing, without the knowledge of, without a share in. So it's kind of still xenos and this word here, xenos and uh para, paracos, par paroikos, right? Paroikos, which means having a home near, a dweller by, an alien resident, dwelling near, neighboring, in the New Testament, a stranger, a foreigner, one who lives in a place without the right of citizenship. That goes with the word gar. All right. That goes right with the word gar. And it says living in a place without the right of citizenship, basically without inheriting rights, as we read in Leviticus 19. So we're no longer foreigners. All right. So if you look at the word foreigner in the Old Testament, it's different. So the words you would want in the Old Testament to match up with paroikos would be Leviticus 19, where it says stranger or gar, which means one lacking inherited rights, all right, or a foreigner. It says without citizenship in Yahweh's kingdom, one who lives on the earth as a stranger, a sojourner on the earth. All right, so, but he said this though, we're no longer foreigners. So who is that to? Israel, not to any heathens. See? Now therefore ye are no more strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints of the household of Yahweh, and are built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Yahweh Shai himself being the chief cornerstone, the stumbling stone, in whom all the building fitly framed together groweth unto a holy temple in Yahweh Shai, in whom ye also are builded together for an habitation of Yahweh through the Spirit. So what's that building? All right, so let's see what that building is. Revelation 21, that's being fitly framed together. He said that individual is being made a fellow citizen, all right, or a pillar. Revelation 21:1, and I saw a new heaven and a new earth. See, Esau's rulership is going to be done. They want to rule in this society and be in the next. No. For the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. So Esau's blessing is going to be taken away, and it's going to be time for Jacob's blessing to shine forth. And I, John, saw the holy city, all right, the separated citizens of Israel, New Jerusalem, meaning being refreshed. All right, Yerushalayim, the city of peace, is a people before it's a place, coming down from Yahweh out of heaven, so out of the chariots, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband, man. Man, all right, prepared, being made perfect, getting new bodies, prepared right now, all the way into the wedding. All right, so now let's get to the point. So let's see who that bride is. And there came unto me, verse 9, and there came unto me of the seven angels which had the seven vials full of the seven last plagues, and talked with me, and one of the seven last plagues of those ICBM missiles, saying, come hither, I will show thee the bride, the Lamb's wife. So let's see who that is. And verse 12, all right, it says this, and it had a wall great and high. So now it's describing a building being fitly framed together. See, it went from talking about a lamb's wife, and it went straight into describing a building being put together. So it's talking about us spiritually, the temple being spiritually built. And it had a wall great and high, and had 12 gates, and at the gates 12 angels, and names written thereon, which are the names of the 12 tribes of Israel. All right, so you can't get around it, man. Can't get over it, can't get under it. All right, Leviticus 19:33. And if a stranger, gar, meaning one lacking inherited rights, a foreigner, sojourn with thee in the land, ye shall not vex him, meaning oppress them, but this, talking about the Israelite, but the stranger, the Israelite that dwelleth with you, shall be unto you as one born among you. See, it's right there. They was born outside the land, or he born in the land. How you going to deal with them? Just like today, somebody is not in the truth and you in the truth, you got to treat them with respect, because we were blind as well. We had to be woken up to this truth. All right, I don't care who it is. And thou shalt love him as thyself. So you love your brother as yourself. Because he said, what? Who is my mother and who is my brother besides those that do the will of the Father? And he said, we're all one in the spirit. For ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. So Yahweh was saying, yo, both not against the branches, because we were Gentiles ourselves. Just like in the land of Egypt. All right, so with that, I'm going to say, he said, what? I am Yahweh, your power. Okay, so with that, I'm going to say, Shalom.